Good Tuesday, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Conversations Daily News. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. We, of course, have your news headlines coming up on this Tuesday. We have the Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich, and today in an entertainment spotlight, you're being part of my conversation with entrepreneur and author Nancy Matthews. Enjoy today's broadcast. For Conversations Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with your Tuesday headlines. In national news, U.S. deaths at brink of 500,000, confirming virus tragic reach. After a year that has darkened doorways around the United States, the pandemic is poised to surpass a milestone that once seemed unimaginable. A reminder of the virus reach into all corners of the country and communities of every size and makeup. Experts warn that over 100,000 more deaths are likely in the next few months, despite a massive campaign to vaccinate people. Meanwhile, the nation's trauma continues to accrue in a way unparalleled in recent American history. At this point, over 500,000 have died from the coronavirus. At other moments of epic loss, like the 9/11 terrorist attack, Americans have pulled together to confront crisis and console survivors. But this time, the nation is deeply divided. Staggering numbers of families are dealing with death, serious illness, and financial hardship, and many are left to cope in isolation, unable even to hold funerals. In recent weeks, virus deaths have fallen from more than 4,000 reported on some days in January to an average of fewer than 1,900 per day in February. The toll recorded by Johns Hopkins University is already greater than the population of Miami or Kansas City, Missouri. It is roughly equal to the number of Americans killed in World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War combined. In more national news, Virginia lawmakers vote to abolish the death penalty. State lawmakers gave final approval Monday to legislation that will end capital punishment in Virginia, a dramatic turnaround for a state that has executed more people in its long history than any other state. The legislation repealing the death penalty now heads to the governor, who will sign it into law, making Virginia the 23rd state to stop executions. Virginia's new Democratic majority, in full control of the General Assembly for a second year, pushed the repeal effort, arguing that the death penalty has been applied disproportionately to people of color and the mentally ill. Republicans raised concerns about justice for victims and their family members and said there are some crimes that are so heinous that the perpetrators deserve to be executed. In more national news, Attorney General nominee Garland vows Capitol riot will be top priority. Merrick Garland, President Joe Biden's Attorney General nominee, vowed on Monday to prioritize combating extremist violence and said his first focus will be of the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol as he sought to assure lawmakers that the Justice Department will remain politically independent on his watch. A federal appeals court judge who was snubbed by Republicans for a seat on the Supreme Court in 2016, Garland appeared Monday before the Senate Judiciary Committee and is widely expected to sail through his confirmation process with bipartisan support. The Attorney General represents the public interest, particularly and specifically as defined by the Constitution and the statutes of the United States, Garland said. I do not plan to be interfered with by anyone. Garland will inherit a Justice Department that endured a tumultuous era under Trump, rife with political drama and controversial decisions, and that faced abundant criticism from Democrats over what they saw as the politicizing of the nation's top law enforcement agency. In more national news, Center receives grant for work preserving Emmett Till legacy. A Mississippi institution is receiving a grant to advance its work in teaching people about the legacy of Emmett Till, a black teenager from Chicago whose lynching by white people in Mississippi in 1955 spurred the civil rights movement. The Andrew W. Mellon Foundation recently announced that it is giving grants to 5 projects across the United States. One of the grants is $691,750 to the Emmett Till Interpretive Center in Sumner, Mississippi. The foundation said in a news release that the center will use the money to support racial healing efforts that include historic preservation, community building activities in the Mississippi Delta, and a year-long strategic planning process to coordinate the preservation of the Mamie and Emmett Till story across the Mississippi Delta and in Chicago. And finally, in entertainment news, Moet Hennessy buys 50% stake in Jay-Z's champagne brand. Moet Hennessy is acquiring a 50% stake in rapper and entrepreneur Jay-Z's champagne brand in an effort to up its cool factor and expand distribution. Terms of the deal, which was announced on Monday, weren't released. Jay-Z, whose real name is Sean Carter, gave the brand a boost in 2006 when he featured one of their bottles in a music video after a public fallout with Cristal, a rival brand. Carter accused Cristal of racism after an executive for the brand mused in an interview about whether partnering with a rapper would harm its image. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. It's now time for the Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich. Mary Ellen, it's all yours.
This is Mary Ellen with your Truth of the Day. Always continue to shine your light of goodness. When you find yourself in the presence of a person in a grumpy mood, it may seem like a dark cloud is approaching. This might block your light of positivity. You can remind yourself that clouds pass. This person's grumpy behavior does not have the power to affect your mood unless you allow it to. With the power of change firmly in your hands, you can choose to respond to a grumpy person with confidence and understanding. Continue to shine your light of positivity to assist others to find their way back to their own light. Offer them a silent prayer of peace, a sympathetic smile, or a word of welcome. All people need understanding without any judgments or expectations. Help a person to see the good in any situation they might see as troublesome. Today, find someone and make their day better. And also, enjoy your day.
Nancy Matthews is featured in today's Entertainment Spotlight, right here on Conversations Daily News. For Conversations Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with the Entertainment Spotlight. Entrepreneur and author Nancy Matthews rejoined me on Conversations Live, the radio show, recently to talk about her amazing brand and the third edition of her book, The One Philosophy, coming out soon. Here's a bit of our conversation.
What has it been like for you to reflect, especially over the past decade, and the impact you've been able to make through the words you've been able to share?
Wow, that's a big question, my friend. So it's really been, you get those goosebump moments in life where like, oh, this is really good. I need to let more people know about this. So since I started talking about the One Philosophy, which was over a decade ago, so many people have shared with me how this simple philosophy, these 6 simple principles that I share in the book, have really changed not only their life, but the life of everyone they meet. And it's a reminder and a callback to kindness, to more love, and we all want that. Like, everybody wants the same thing, and we also often are struggled, with how do you manage this in the high demand, multifaceted impact that the speed this world lives at. How can we really be paused to be present enough?
And Nancy, I think that the big thing about that is, you're right, we ask those questions, but you've been able to show people how they can find the answers. So I want to ask you, in doing that, have you always known that you were a person who not only wanted to find success for yourself, Nancy, but also help other people to do the same thing?
Not exactly. I didn't concentrate on it. So, I've always had a kind heart, and I want to help people, and I'm cut from that cloth. I never saw that as my calling or my job. That was just, what you do with people, right? It was just a nice thing.
Gotcha.
Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. We thank you all for tuning in to this edition of Conversations Daily News. We'll be back with you guys on tomorrow with more news, Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich, and of course your Entertainment Spotlight. Until then, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Daily News today. Let's make it a great one.